Hello, my name is Jade, and I'm just going to reflect on here about the chapter that I read. Um, Starting off, I really found that it was beneficial for me to learn all the different sexual orientations that they have listed in the textbook. I was really only familiar with heterosexuality and homosexuality. I really wasn't familiar with asexuality or pansexuality, but after reading the textbook, I do have a better idea and knowledge of what those are, and I also know that they are valid. And I think some people like to invalidate those two things because it's not in the norm in this society. I feel like a lot of people get looked at funny or just weird looks if they say what their sexual orientation is and it's not, straight, bi, homosexual. I don't know. But now that I know what these are, I do think that they are important, and I do think they are valid, and I do think people should be able to express how they feel and what they are attracted to, and they should not be judged by that at all. And then I also found sexual binaries to be very intriguing to me because I used to believe that you were either straight or gay, in my opinion. Growing up, I was growing up in a Catholic household with my family, but my other sides of the family were not Catholic, so growing up I saw two sides to things. So I think that really kind of helped me be more open to being educated on this stuff, because I do think it's very important for people to be able to express who they're attracted to, what they're attracted to, and they should not be judged for that at all, because love is love. So, and then I found really interesting in this textbook how they show little quotes in the textbook, like on the side of the page. I have my textbook right here so I can show you what I'm talking about, like right there. I found that to be really interesting and more engaging for me, because I could look at a textbook and read it and not know a single thing about what I just read. So I think it's kind of nice to add those in there for me anyway. And I really like this one specifically. It says, even if there were a gay gene, it could not possibly explain the varied historical patterning of homosexuality over time, or even within a single culture. And then moving on, something that I actually found quite problematic to me was the sexual invisibility. That really upset me because the fact that some people, well, a lot of people felt the need to hide their sexuality because of what people might think of them and what it could do to their lives. Like, some people could lose their jobs, they could be bullied, stuff like that, just for expressing what they feel and how they feel. And then also this quote in the textbook as well really stood out to me, and it said, homosexuals were invisible. They fought in wars, but no one knew. They were everywhere, but no one was aware of them. They were closeted or hid their identity for fear of losing their jobs and their families. Homosexuals lived through most of the 20th century with a hidden identity that imbued their lives with shame and fear. And that quote has stayed with me since I've read this chapter, and I've gone over it a few different times, but I just always keep going back to that quote. I don't know why specifically, but just reading that and knowing that some people had to go through that and just feel like they had to stay quiet about who they love and what they're attracted to just really upsets me, especially if they're fighting in wars. Like, these people are fighting for our country and they can't even express how they feel about someone. So that was really problematic for me because people should be able to express how they feel and who they feel with. So on a positive note, I did find it interesting how they mention in the textbook that media images don't really portray sexuality in senior citizens. It's mostly portrayed as for young adults. I found that to be really interesting because I never really thought about that. I don't know why, and I don't know why it stuck out to me, but just in the textbook when they said, despite the lack of media images of sexually active senior citizens, sexuality can be enjoyed across the life course. And that actually is a positive thing. I think that if you're old, young, well, not too young, but you know what I mean, you should be able to have experiences like that throughout your life, especially if you really enjoy them. And then one last thing that I want to say that I found really interesting about this chapter was the sexual hierarchy. And this was found in the tab under sexual minorities beyond LGBTQ. And I found this to be really interesting because the dominant group of this hierarchy is heteros, and then specifically males. Heterosexual males are hierarchy of this group, which makes me a little uneasy, to be honest, because that I don't understand why there is a sexual hierarchy when anybody is able to love anybody. So that really kind of made me confused a little bit on what, and then there's an imaginary line between good and bad sex, and that certain behaviors are at the top of the erotic pyramid. I don't really know how I feel about that, but I know that just that no one should really be higher than one another when it comes to sexual preferences and sexuality. So, with that being said, I am excited to learn more during this course. I feel like I've already learned a lot about others and just how hard it could be for some people, especially if they come from a home that isn't as accepting. And I'm also really glad that I learned more about the sexual orientations, so I feel like I have a better connection with some of my family members, and I can talk to them about how they feel and what they feel, and just kind of explain to them that it's okay, and you don't need to really base your life on your parents' approval and everything like that. And I also found it really interesting how the textbook basically said that sexuality is not genetic. It's based on experiences and media. The media now is really what this generation's about. So a lot of teens and young adults trying to figure out their lives really look towards social media, and they look for approval, and if this one person's doing it, then they think that they should be able to do it, and that's awesome. I think social media is a great way to express how you feel, but at the same time it can also be really bad. So I'm excited to learn more about this chapter, or about this textbook and this class. So thank you.